Welcome, listener, to another episode of Scouting 5, recapping scouting news from around the world for the week of August 30th, 2021. I'm Scouter Ken, and I am once again recording from St. Albert, Alberta. The 42nd World Scout Conference wrapped up recently. This conference, held virtually, featured around 3,000 participants representing 170 national scouting organizations from around the world. It was the largest in the history of the World Organization of the Scouting Movement, and of course also the first time that the event has been convened virtually. Probably not a coincidence there. It's a lot easier for people to attend things via a screen than actually fly halfway around the world to get to them. A lot cheaper too. The 5-day conference took place from the 25th to the 29th of August, and the goal was to make key decisions that will shape the future direction of the scouting movement for the triennium 2021 to 2024. So these conferences are held every few years. The 42nd conference, in this case, was preceded by the 14th World Scout Youth Forum, which engaged about 700 young people in a unique learning and growth opportunity to also provide input into the decisions that would be taking place during the conference. During the course of the conference, the chairperson and vice chairpersons of the 2021 to 2024 World Scout Committee were announced. Edward Andy Chapman of the United States of America has been elected as the chairperson of the World Scout Committee, alongside Sarah Rita Catan from Lebanon and Joe Deman of Belgium, and they will serve as the committee's two vice chairpersons. The World Scout Committee, if you haven't heard of it, is kind of like the board of the World Organization of the Scouting Movement. It's one of the organization's three constituent bodies, with the other two being the World Scout Conference and the World Scout Bureau. The committee is responsible for implementation of resolutions of the World Scout Conference and to act on the conference's behalf between its meetings. And towards the end of the event, it was also declared that Egypt would play host to the next World Scout Conference. The 43rd conference will take place in 2024. The Polish National Scout Organization were successful in their bid to host the 26th World Scout Jamboree, which will take place in 2027. They were appointed the host at the 42nd World Scout Conference following a vote taken in plenary by member organizations. The Jamboree, as you're probably aware, takes place every 4 years in a different country, and it's the largest outdoor educational event for young people organized by the World Organization of the Scouting Movement in partnership with national hosts. Jamborees can gather upwards of 40,000 people, sometimes more, from all over the world, and they're generally aimed at promoting peace and understanding between countries. Participants must be between the ages of 14 and 17 at the time of the event, and individuals who are older than 18 years of age can take part as volunteer international service team members. Expect, as you see advertising emerge for the 2027 Jamboree, that you'll see the word bravely featured a lot. The Polish Scouts have really been featuring this concept lately. Their big aim for the last few years has been to engage a new generation of young leaders, and the concept of bravery, or just bravely, has been a focal point of their program and will continue to be going forward. I know we touch on this every few episodes. We're going to touch on it again. Scout organizations around the world are constantly in need of volunteers. The story you're going to see linked in the show notes this week comes from the first Renfrew Scouts out of Ontario in Canada, but their needs are not unique to them. They're in a critical state right now. Their volunteership has been in decline for the last couple of years, especially as a result of the COVID crisis. And so they are struggling to find enough volunteers to run their scouting program this year. There are undoubtedly many other scout groups around the world that are feeling the same pinch. So, my usual plea to you, if there's a scout group in your area and you're keen to volunteer with them, please do reach out, because chances are they need the help. In what is hopefully one of the last times I will have to mention the ongoing abuse case and court case against the Boy Scouts of America, a Delaware judge ruled a couple of weeks ago that the Boy Scouts of America can enter into a $850 million agreement, which the organization hopes to use as a springboard for emerging from bankruptcy later on in the year. However, the judge did reject two key provisions of the deal. The agreement would involve, of course, the National Boy Scouts organization, as well as about 250 local Boy Scout councils, and attorneys representing around 70,000 young men who say they were abused as youngsters decades ago while engaged in scouting activities. The agreement would overall call for the Boy Scouts and local councils to contribute $850 million into a fund for these abuse claimants. The agreement is not without its opponents, insurers who have issued policies to the Boy Scouts and local councils, and also attorneys representing some of the abuse victims, and some of the church denominations that have sponsored Boy Scout troops have all registered their displeasure with it. The judge's ruling overall was that BSA officials exercised proper business judgment as required under the law in entering into the agreement, but the judge refused to grant a request that the Boy Scouts be allowed to pay millions of dollars in legal fees and expenses of attorneys hired by law firms representing the abuse claimants. Also denied was the BSA's request under the agreement for permission to withdraw from an April agreement in which insurance company The Hartford would pay $650 million into the fund for abuse claimants in exchange for being released from any further liability. And finally, just a couple of little housekeeping type announcements. One, of course, we are entering into September now, which means that October is upcoming, and from the 15th to the 17th of October 2021, Jota Joti, Jamboree on the Air, Jamboree on the Internet, will be taking place, the world's largest digital and radio-based scouting event. Often sees upwards of 1 million participants from around the world. If you've never taken part, I would encourage you to join. Registration is going to open early on in September. Pay attention to jotajoti.info for more details. And finally, the Northern Lights Medical Venturers, located in or around Edmonton, Alberta, are once again accepting membership requests or applications to join their number. So this is for venturer and rover-aged youth in Scouts Canada's Northern Lights Council who are particularly interested in EMS and first aid. The MedVents are, in fact, recruiting yet again, just in time for registration to open up. Scouts Canada registration officially opened yesterday for returning members and will open to the general public on the 15th of September. If you want to join the MedVents and get practical hands-on experience from registered practitioners in a dynamic and unique program designed to challenge youth and to teach critical skills applicable to a wide range of future career opportunities in healthcare, your best bet would be to get in touch with their advisor, Eric, who we've had on the podcast before. Eric at nlmedvents.ca. That's Eric at nlmedvents.ca. I respect Eric a little bit too much to just put his email in the show notes and subject him to the spam. And that is all the news I have for you this week. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, be prepared.